What really scary horror story really happened in your life or to the people you know? PFFF. Well, this is gonna be a long one, but it gives me the chills every time I tell the tale. It happened to me, so here it goes. I will tell the story with details that in the beginning seems to had nothing to do with it, but in the end, you'll get the full picture. In our house we had tons of stuff and I hated it. So at some point I started throwing everything I could away. I did it to a point where we almost had a normal house and got to the living room where I threw some horrible furniture. But the very next day my mom got some horrible sofa that used to be from her dad. I hated it. It was old, horrible, had nothing to do with the rest of the living room, etc. And I set my mind to get rid of it. Someday, I go to my house with my girlfriend from that time. The house was alone and every light was off. I get in with her and she was very scared. She was that kind of girl who says she can feel stuff, it runs in the family, blah blah. Never took her serious, so I got in to teach her a lesson, turn only one light on in the living room, sat her on the sofa and went to look for the thing we went to my place to get with every single light off in the rest of the house. When I get back to her, she's frozen, crying and very afraid, but she says nothing. I pay no mind to it, take her and leave the place, but in the next few days something started happening to me. I started to fall asleep or even black out in the middle of doing stuff, and every time I woke up in the sofa I hated. In the beginning I remember it happened when I was about to go to bed, but then it happened even when I was talking to somebody. They told me that I just stop talking, walk to the sofa and go to sleep. At first I almost didn't notice it, until I started having weird dreams. At first I had sleeping paralysis, which was completely new for me and scary AF. But then I started seeing in the middle of my paralysis this woman. Every time I slept in the couch was in the same direction, exact same position. I could see the stairs, and she was a pale woman, with black hair, a white dress, not a fancy one, but more like the kind girls use to sleep. She didn't look scary or like the girl in the ring. But I never got to see her face. The first time I saw her, I remember being not scared at first, but as she came down, I realized she wasn't my sister, then realized I couldn't move and lost my shit until I woke up. And it happened one time. Then a second. Then a third. And every time she came a little bit closer. But the fourth time was the worst scare. I don't remember why. I didn't realize she wasn't my sister until she was already touching me, and then I remembered that she was the girl from the previous times. She started touching me and giving me some sort of massage. It was good, until I started getting scared and told her, "Hey Natalie, Nat is my sister. Why don't you come closer for me to see your face?" Then she did this noise as if she was annoyed like ugh, and scratched my back from the point where I felt her hand. It was hard. I remember screaming from the pain and then waking up at 3 a.m., alone in the living room, in the couch, bleeding. I lost my shit because I was looking a logical argument, thinking I did that to myself, but my arms were as far as possible to my back. I went running to my bedroom and saw the scratch on my back. It was huge and it burned from the inside out. It wasn't like bleeding, but you could see some blood. I keep dreaming of her, but she never got that close again. I don't remember the details of the next dreams, but I do remember I saw her a total of 7 times. And the last one was the most different from them all. I had a dream where I was some sort of priest or a reporter. I remember there were 2 men and I was one of them, but I don't remember which one. And we were like in the 1920s. Take into consideration that, in the US those times were civilized, but in my country that time was really underdeveloped also. Anyway. The other guy and I went to a town because there was something weird going on with some lady, and we went to investigate, the priest sent by the church and the reporter because he heard some crazy stories. So they went into the lattice house and there she was. Alive, a beautiful lady who told us that the people from the village think ill of her and she's just a regular lady who keeps her things to herself. We talked the whole afternoon and she seemed fine, nothing weird, no spirits. She was just the town outcast. It was late and I remember considering leaving, but she says she needs to take a shower, and while we wait I remember taking a look to her library and seeing an odd-looking book. As soon as she sees me looking at it, she asked us to do whatever we wanted except to look at the book. She leaves. And then I, of course, took the book. It was her journal and we started reading. Turns out she wrote about how she found her husband having an affair with her best friend from childhood and she went crazy. She wanted to kill them, to die, to whatever, but never got the guts to do anything about it or to confront them. So she tried to summon a devil and it came. She wrote how he gave her a different kind of deal. He didn't want her soul, he wanted her body. He was going to end the affair, but she was going to lend him her body for 5 years. Then she wrote how her friend and husband were horrifically murdered and the killer never found. Later she wrote that she one day woke up 5 years later with absolutely no clue of what went on during that time, and she could only feel something horrible happened, but simply was unable to figure it out. When she woke up she only saw the disgust in everyone's faces and she simply went on with her life, but said that the worst part was looking at the mirror, since now she looked different. Then there was a photo of her in the journal which she drew over some horrible features. I remember reading all that and losing it, seeing the photo with the horrible drawing and telling my partner we need to leave that place ASAP, and then the door opened and there was she. She looked at us and said something like, "I only asked you for this," and then she wasn't there. I freaked out. She disappeared in the blink of an eye. I turned around to leave that place running and she was behind me, but I saw her with the same face as she drew herself. In that instant I woke up with my heart beating incredibly fast, but I woke up to a sleeping paralysis. I was scared as never was before, and there she was. But this time she was crying. She sat next to me while crying, and the only words that came out of her mouth were, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." I was so scared I didn't want to upset her, so I only said, "Don't worry. I forgive you," and I woke up the next second. She wasn't there. It was again, as always, 3 a.m., and that was the last time I ever dreamed of her. I told the story to a couple of people and gave them all the chills. But then I got together with my ex, the one at the start of the long story, and tell her everything, with every detail I could remember, and she was pale. Then she tells me Javi, the girl was like my height, pale, white dress, long black hair. Then and there I lost it, because when I told her the story I never described the girl. I said yes and felt tears of fear in my eyes. Then she responded, "That day that we went to your house I was so scared, because I could see that girl looking at you from the darkness, and when you went up to the dark she walked right behind you until you came back down, but she stood in the stairs looking at us." I remember crying in that moment and being as afraid as when I felt her next to me. But never again saw, felt, or dreamed with the girl after I said that I forgive you to her, but never understood why she was asking me to forgive her. Never digged into it either.